And welcome back to the Sports Avenue podcast. I'm your host, Jimmy Simonis, and this is episode 35. We're going to be talking about rugby today. The World Cup's going on. It's been a great event so far. I've been watching a few games here and there, and let me say, it's been a great event. And rugby is definitely going to be gaining popularity here in the United States in a matter of time. But we're not talking about the United States right now. We're going to be talking about from two fellows from Wales. I have here Dom Welsh and Rhys. Guys, how you guys doing today?
Yeah, good, thanks. Not too bad. How about yourself, Jim?
I'm excited for this discussion, let me tell you, to say the least. It's been a good few games of rugby so far to start in the World Cup, but I want to talk about your guys' experiences in rugby. So I'll start with you, Dom. How did you get into rugby, and why do you love the sport so much?
So I got into rugby because it's been a family sport. My brother played, I played, my dad, my grandfather, and it just goes back like that, really. I also played because I'm a short, square fella. So it was the one sport I think rugby's really good for is being inclusive to all shapes and sizes. So there's a position for whoever. So yeah, that's how I got into it really, and it gave me a calling to get fit at the time. Obviously not now, and just enjoy the sport and scored a few tries even, and have a great laugh along the way. Having the rugby banter and all that kind of stuff. You become a part of something, and I think it's really, really brilliant for young people around Wales.
Rhys, I'll ask you the same thing.
Yeah, it was kind of, in my household, it was, you like rugby. There's not a choice to it. It's something you had to do. My dad played it from a young age, and where I grew up, the only thing we had going for us was rugby. Really small, typical Welsh village. Started playing when I was, about 13, 14. And again, I'm a bit like Dom. I'm a heavy-set fellow. So it's one of those sports where you can just jump into it, get fit. And it's a good culture, you finish the game, you go back to the club, have chips and gravy, have a couple of drinks as well. And it's just a really good, coming together and a really good community game.
That's awesome. Because I don't know if you guys are familiar with the NFL in America, like the American football, with people wear the pads and all that.
Yeah.
That's the main contact sport in America, and people have been enjoying that more. And rugby's starting to gain a little bit of traction. And I really didn't realize rugby, the sport itself, because I had this persona of I thought rugby was just about guys murdering each other, because that's what you saw on TV. You really didn't see the whole sport and everything that's involved with it. Then I tried it last year, and it was just such a fun sport. I think the environment's so much different. It's not just guys beating up each other. It's like a community almost that you guys are talking about.
Yeah.
There's a saying in it. It's a gentleman's sport.
Yeah.
Played by hooligans. It's hooligan sport played by gentlemen. That's what they say about
That's it. But what I would say also is that I don't think people realise, because it's such a contact sport and it's got a bit of a bad rep with it being, super physical. I don't think people realise the complexities of the sport. I mean, if you compare it to football, there's about 3 positions in the football field. You're a striker, midfielder, or a defender. Sorry, I'm talking about soccer. Whereas in rugby, there's each position has got its own role, and they're totally different from each other, and they're all unique and important for the game, for your team to win.
Yeah, it's a very diverse sport, isn't it? You got the big chubby guys, you got the tall, big lanky guys in the second row, you got the tiny scrum halves, and then you got the fit guys out on the wing. So yeah, it's a sport that anyone can join in with, really.
Yeah,
and there's many different ways to play the position, and there's double positions. So you've got a tight head prop, which is a more heavy set prop, and then you've got a loose prop, who's a prop who thinks he's a centre or a winger, which I'm sure is me and Rhys. But yeah, it's lots of different ways you can play the game, which obviously allows lots of personality in the game, and that's what I think makes the sport of rugby unique.
That's why I also noticed, too, that when I played for my high school, the way you can play and the type of people that can play, it's literally open for anyone. Your position or your body height, your body size really doesn't determine what you can play. Or it does, but at the same time, it doesn't restrict you. Like for the NFL, if you're not over 6 feet, can run super fast, jump super high, if you're not an athletic freak, you're really not going to be able to get into the NFL because you have to be so athletic. In rugby, I feel like if you have a certain strength and you can utilize it correctly, that can take you very far into the sport. And I think that's what's so unique about it.
I mean, recently, I think we're starting to see now in this World Cup a bit more of that. You know, a lot of people with different sizes. I mean, you look at the Russian team. That's a prime example of short guys and tall guys, and big and slim. But I think just prior to that, in the last World Cup, every player was looking the same. But now they've reverted back to type and gone down the original route, which I'm really excited to see.
Yeah, because you get to see the diversity of the sport itself.
I think one of the kind of best teams to look at for that are the Pacific Island teams. I think it was Tonga the other day who had that absolutely massive prop playing the front row, and he's like, you look at him and he's like, yeah, he's a real prop because he was just a lump of a boy, you know. But then they've got like the tiny scrum halves, and it is great to see just so many different people.
I'm not sure that this is right, but I think that guy was 23 stone or something.
Yeah, he was. I remember looking at him and just being like, "Whoa, he's a big boy."
I think his nickname was the Wardrobe or something like that.
Yeah, I was there. Yeah. But I think it's interesting that you mentioned NFL because obviously you've got loads of rugby guys over the years made the jump to NFL. Like at the moment, Christian Wade from the London Wasps, he made the jump to the Buffalo Bills.
Yes, and that's right.
I think it is a lot of like similar skill sets in a way. I know he scored his first touchdown on his first rush, didn't he, in the preseason? He
had some big plays. I mean, I heard of him. I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. He's got some speed. I mean, he fit the part. So that's why I just thought it was so unique. And I know there was a few other guys. I know a few years ago, one guy got drafted to the 49ers. I don't remember what country he was from.
Jared Hayne, right? He was NRL player. He played in the
yeah, that's right. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think he was a Fiji Sevens player originally.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's really cool to see that these guys, have the athleticism and that can play in the NFL. Granted, it's just a different sport and rules, which is the adjustment period for them.
Yeah, but particularly those Pacific Island boys are just supernatural athletes. It's crazy.
Oh yeah, the Southern Hemisphere rugby is so just. I think it's a different level to Northern Hemisphere, particularly obviously when you speak about New Zealand. They start training them pretty brutally from like a young age over there. 'Cause I remember I did a story before where they take them out at very young ages on like hikes and like mountain biking on massive mountains. And when they like fall over and get hurt, they don't rush over to help them. They tell them you've got to get up in your own time. So it like toughens them up from this young age.
Yeah,
so they really
a bit like
go
a
all
boot
out.
camp kind of.
Yeah. They start them from a young age over there. And that's probably why they are at the level they are at the moment,
Yeah, especially it's that mentality that really makes you like think like, and plus when they do the haka and it's like just the chills you get by watching it. I mean, I can only imagine what you feel like when doing it or staring at that, like looking across and.
I got a bit of a controversial opinion on this, where I thought the best haka I've seen recently. I know it's not technically called the haka, but was Samoa's. Watching that haka yesterday, that for me, that one was the best one so far, the most passionate one I've seen.
I love all the squeals and all that. They do. It's amazing, and it does put the willies up you. And I reckon they're all lying when they say, "Oh yeah, the haka's boring," or "Oh yeah, whatever." It affects you. It does.
Yeah, when I first saw it as a kid, I just got these chills up my spine, and I'm just sitting there like oh my gosh.
My dream is to see the haka live one day at a rugby stadium. That is one of my dreams.
Yeah, and it's just cool to see that it's their passion. They're not trying to be about me. It's about the team and going to war for them, basically. It's awesome. Yeah. So I was actually going to ask you guys, what is rugby to Wales? I mean, like, how like England and the Europe has like soccer. Like, where does Wales see rugby?
I think it's the national sport, isn't it? I mean, it's one of the few things we're good at, I think, sporting-wise. Like soccer, it's creeped up over the last year, but there's something about rugby in Wales. Like I live in Cardiff now. I'm sat in my living room right now, and I can see Principality Stadium from my window, so I get to see that every day.
That's awesome.
And being here on match day is like it's another level. It's just like people get so passionate about it, and like it just brings people together. Like I've sat in pubs before on a match day and just spoken to people I've never spoken to before, probably never would speak to on a regular day, but there's something about match day where just a sense of pride really, and everyone wants to come together, a big team, especially when we play England. When we play England, like everyone in Wales, whether you're a rugby fan or not, is on the same page and just wants to beat them.
I think it's in the mentality of the Welsh, and it's always been, going back to ancient times. Wales have always been a tribalistic place, and you've got different valleys in Wales, and they're all different from each other. And you can go from one valley to the other, and it would be totally different people. And these sides, they get behind their club, and they will go. Everyone will go to the stadiums and support their team. It's a bit like how competitive college NFL football is in America. Is super competitive, and it's bragging rights and a big and betty after the game and songs and stuff. Obviously, us Welsh love to sing. It gives us an excuse to have a sing song and have a few bebs.
I remember I took my girlfriend to the rugby one time when she was just first getting into it. And when you go to see the rugby, they have the choirs out beforehand. And my girlfriend just went, "Oh, can I just sit here and listen to the choirs all day?" I think that's a big part of Welsh rugby. It's just like, yeah, we do love a song. I don't know what it is, but any chance we get, we'll belt out a bit of Calon Lan or Bread of Heaven.
Yeah, but it's the humour, and we've had some great musicians like Max Boyce and Bryn Terville and stuff like that, and great singers worldwide that go touring. I think Wales are known, if people have heard of Wales, I think the first thing they think of is rugby.
So I know you got the Wales, they won the Six Nations tournament this past winter/spring. So what was the reaction like when they won?
I was out. I used to work as a promoter in Cardiff, so I was out working outside a lot. And I remember I was working the night of the last game when we won, and it was like a party. You'd swear, like, I don't know, like people were treating it like we had just. It was like we'd won the World Cup, because it was just one of those moments where it means so much, because we've had such an up and down kind of thing in the Six Nations, and Wales are one of these teams that we're either kind of on top or we're just down, the absolute drizzles, But this tournament, I don't know what it was, they just switched something on and everyone was behind them, especially in that England game. It was, I had my Apple Watch on, I had so many notifications telling me my heart rate was too high. I was like, I know, trust me, I know it's high. I was shaking, and it's just, the atmosphere was amazing. Everyone just singing, everyone, just drunk, so drunk, because they've been out all day, and it was just a great atmosphere.
Yeah,
and everyone's just on top of the world, really.
But how Wales play up and down is very similar to how the fans view Wales, and we can be the best fans in the world and full on passionately support and every rugby player, but when things go wrong, I think we're the worst fans in the world also. We're always first to boot out the coach or what have you.
Yeah. I think it's us or the French. They're very quick to turn on their team as well. But I think it's just the nature of the sport. Obviously you want to see a team win all the time.
Yeah.
And they can't always do it, but obviously this year we had one of the best winning runs we've ever had. And it just feels like it was a good year for Welsh rugby. I keep saying if we don't make it to the final of the World Cup this year, we're probably not going to do it for a very long time. So
yeah, we're going into this World Cup now. I think someone compared it to the winning English side that won the World Cup with so much experience. And I know a lot of people say, well, Wales haven't got much of a population to have strength in depth. But we definitely got it this time around, I feel.
I feel like everyone's saying like the All Blacks are. I mean, obviously they're going to be favorites every year. I mean, there's really not a weakness for them. I mean, if I'm wrong, just correct me. But again, it's just when you expect to see when you think of the All Blacks, you just think of the sheer dominance that they've provided for these last decades.
Yeah, I think there is definitely a way to beat the All Blacks, but the only way to do that is to beat them at their own game. So they're a very physical side and in your face and super quick. Obviously, one of the fittest sides in the competition. But so's Wales, and when we've played together previously, quite recently, I think the Welsh boys' game plan have just been to beat them at their own game in their face for the full 80 minutes, straight down the middle. Because, I mean, if you go wide and side to side with New Zealand, they're going to isolate you. They're almost offside every time. And they will turn the ball over and capitalise in those quick turnover times. I mean, I haven't looked at the stats, but nearly every time they get a turnover, they score. So it's important to keep the ball tight and stick it to the Kiwis where they don't like it.
They are one of those teams that just, if you give them just an inch, they will take a mile, And it's weird because it's like, it always seems to be around the 60th minute. They can have a really slow first half where teams will just pile up on them, and you think, all right, maybe they're going to do it now. Then 60th minute, the All Black switch goes, like they say, and then
they just turn it on.
Yeah, they just
they'll
flip
just
it.
score tries for fun, won't they?
Yeah.
All right, I was actually just going to move on to the next question. So Wales, they won their first game against Georgia, 43-14. What did you take away from their dominant performance against Georgia?
Well, the one thing I take away is that when they are, linking up and doing offloads and that kind of thing, the difference, I think, what Wales has got at the moment, that I haven't seen as well in other teams, apart from Japan, even though they was nervous, was how their teamwork and offloading didn't look really laboured. I mean, everyone knew where they were, who was on each other's shoulders. So obviously I think we did drop off in the second half. But Wales, the mentality of the game is very important for Welsh players, I think. And when he's on, we perform. And I think if Wales are in the lead, it's easy for us to step off the gas, knowing that it's Georgia and we can shut down the game if we need to. But I don't think that would happen against one of the big boys, but just purely because of the mentality. The Welsh boys will play for the full 80 minutes, but they didn't do that against Georgia. So I haven't got nothing to worry about for Wales. I'm quite optimistic in their future games.
Yeah, I think I agree with Dom with the whole thing of they do take their foot off the second gas, because the gas of the second half, sorry. And it's one of those things where it's happened quite a lot, where we go in the first half and we'll just, we'll absolutely smash it. And then get to the second half, and for some reason we just start slowing down. And yeah, against a team like Georgia, you, no offence to them, but you can't afford to do that. But then against, like, we've got Australia next, they're a team that you've got to play 80 minutes of just solid rugby. And even against the next two teams we got coming up, Fiji, they're no slouches, and then Uruguay proved today that they can definitely pull off a surprise. Because I didn't watch the game myself, but I watched the highlights, and I was so surprised that the try by the number 9 from Uruguay was brilliant. I think it is keeping that intensity up, just making sure that, we keep those tackles going, and we just, we shut them down at the breakdowns. I think Georgia, they did well to score those 2 tries, but for those, I feel like if you want to be a top team, you've got to kind of shut down those smaller teams.
Right, you can't allow those mistakes.
Lower scores.
You make sure that you keep your foot on the pedal, staying aggressive, staying consistent, instead of just kind of letting those last few minutes fly by and just kind of let them do whatever they want.
Yeah.
Reece, you talked about Australia and Wales playing. I actually wanted to talk about that. What are your keys for both teams in this game?
Well, Australia, I feel like there's a lot to kind of focus on. I suppose the one saving grace we have at the moment is that they've lost the player on the wing. His name slipped my mind now. He's been banned for the last couple of games because they're tackling him against Fiji. But I feel like it's going to be around the breakdown, I think.
Reece Hodge or something like that.
That's the one, yeah. But I think with Australia, it is just a breakdown, because they've got some of the best scrummaging players. They've got some players that will just steal a ball off you without you knowing about it. So have we. I think this year's back row, Wales' back row, is so strong. In Navidi, Moriarty, and then Wainwright, Tipperick, and James Davis as well. They're players that can really get in the breakdown, make a mess of it. And like Tipperick, for me, he had a brilliant game in the first game. I think they're the players that we kind of look to. And then it's going to be, we're going to have depth in the back as well, because Australia are one of those teams that are really good defence. And it's going to be, we're going to have to find the weaknesses early on, I think, and then try and just attack them as much as we can, come out the gates, full blaze.
So just continuing their dominance like they did with Georgia, but just don't let their foot off the pedal, because Australia can easily come back.
Yeah. And obviously, the last game we played against them in the Autumn Internationals last year, we beat them, but it was a very close game. And I think obviously the World Cup is another step up again. So it's going to be a tough game. But I think if we get out there and if we play like we've been playing recently, if we go back to playing like we were playing in the Six Nations, against guys like England, the guys against like Ireland, then I think we can do it. There's no reason we can't do it. But it is finding that intensity and just going for it the entire game.
And being clever as well with the high ball. We don't want to be kicking too much high ball to their boys, and we've got to be very, very on top of it when we get high ball our end, because some of the Aussie boys are the best in the air, and that's down to being AFL, which is obviously the Aussie Football League. They're always in the air, basically, kicking, and very used to playing that loose kind of high ball kind of game. So we need to keep an eye out for that. Besides
the Welsh, have you watched any other teams or have kept your eyes on?
Oh yeah, I've watched a couple. I like to watch as much as I can, because I really love rugby. So I try and watch as much as I can. But obviously, these early kickoffs are a bit of a struggle. And I mean, I think you've got to mention, and which I hate to mention, we've got to mention England. You know, they're definitely favourites this tournament. They just play. They're so intense recently. And I don't know what it is. They don't like. I think they beat Tonga 35-3, and you know, lots of people were saying, "Oh, that's a disappointing scoreline," you know. But you know, to be a team 35-3 and still people say it's not good enough, I think shows that they are one of the best teams around at the moment. Then Ireland, I've always got a soft spot for Ireland, and they dominated Scotland the other day. I was really surprised by that score. I do like Argentina. I'm a fan of Argentina as well.
They had that tough loss to France, their first game.
Yeah, I think that was one of the best games so far because it was just non-stop all the way through, and it was a proper game of rugby, I think. And then, yeah, love a bit of drama at the end.
Mm-hmm. And it was neck and neck all the way through. A lot of these games I feel like have been blowouts, to the scores. So it's like having those close games in the pool play, I definitely think helps set the bar higher.
Yeah, I mean, I was gutted for Russia yesterday. I think Samoa were very lucky not to have 2 red cards. I think those 2 tackles, for me, should have been red cards, and I think it would have been a different game if Samoa went down 2 players. But, you know, I feel like there's some very exciting rugby being played this tournament. It's just, I think this is I think rugby, because it's become more popular recently, I think everyone is stepping up their game. So there's a lot of exciting teams to look out for. I'm excited for the USA because I think they've got some great players. They've got Carlin Isles, is that his name?
I believe so.
Plays rugby sevens as well, and he's just he's something else. He's so fast. I look forward to seeing what they can do. Obviously, their first game's tough. It's England.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, definitely. I was surprised about how Japan's backs play. Their wings are playing great, especially against Russia. I was able to catch that game, and their backs are playing fantastic, and their forwards were good too. They were undersized, but they were playing great.
Yeah, I thought Japan. They were very nervous. Obviously, you know, it was their home nation side, and they were very nervous against Russia. And Russia were putting it on them very quickly. And I think Russia plays high intensity attrition kind of rugby. And Japan reacted very well, and they're always going to play that loose game, and I really respect them for that. And it come together in the end, and they're looking very dangerous, particularly their wings. But their man, tell you what, he had an outstanding game. I think they call him the General. I'll have to find his. I got a message with his. To a Japanese fan the other day.
Is it Tamura?
Yeah, Tamura. Oh, my days. Fantastic player. And I think he's definitely one to watch for Japan. Absolute talisman.
I think Japan has benefited because, like, Japan, one of those countries that kind of the rugby has grown there very recently, I think. And I think they've benefited from the fact that a lot of the New Zealand players would go and play out there when the rugby season finished in New Zealand, because obviously they have Super 14 out in New Zealand. And when that would finish, because the New Zealand players are nutters and don't like to have time off, they would just go out to Japan and play over there. So I think all these Japanese players have been playing with these New Zealand players, and suddenly they've picked up this kind of New Zealand-esque type of play.
Yeah.
And obviously, you know, they've got everyone, when you speak of Japan, everyone talks about that win over South Africa. You know, no one is ever going to forget about that. So I think they are one of those teams that when they get rolling, they can play some good rugby. And they've got Ireland next, on Saturday. So that's going to be a really good match. I think
especially.
Oh, is Japan's manager or head coach? Isn't he from Wales or New Zealand? Isn't he from one of those 2 places?
Joe Joseph. I don't think he's a Welsh boy. Let me just quickly give that a quick Google. I think it's the Japan coach now.
Because I don't think he's not. I know he's not from Japan, but I know he's from a country that does play good rugby. I just can't think of it off the top of my head.
I think he might be a Kiwi, Joe Joseph.
Jamie Joseph. Yeah, he's a New Zealander.
Jamie Joseph.
Yeah, New Zealander.
I was gonna say that probably that definitely helps when you have a guy that knows New Zealand rugby. Then he's been able to transfer that to Japan's rugby team, which has been growing over these last few years, like you've said.
Yeah.
So,
it's interesting you mentioned Reece, Ireland and Japan the next game. I think Ireland have got to be very careful. I mean, Sexton, if you noticed I don't know if you watched the last game, Irish game between Scotland, but he was refusing to kick a goal within the game there. So I don't know whether he's picked up an injury, which is not allowing him to kick. And obviously that's very important. I think Ireland have kind of built their team around Sexton at the moment. And that could be a real important factor against Japan.
Yeah, definitely, especially if Japan's wings get going too. That's going to be tough to stop, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Who is your favorite to win it all?
Well, I've said from the start, I don't know whether this is just my biased and crazy mind, but Japan and Wales are going to be in the final.
I think Wales could do it this year. I personally see a Wales Ireland, but I did have a theory at the start that England were going to get a bit too big for them and crash out in the pool stages. But I'm not too sure anymore after seeing their first game.
Because what was funny was sorry, go ahead.
I think this is Wales' biggest shot to win it. Like the players we've got now, this is our biggest chance to really put up a case of winning the World Cup. So I'm gonna put my faith in the boys, and I'm gonna say Wales. I think are gonna make it against Ireland or New Zealand. I think be one of those two.
All right, 'cause I did a blog and I was talking about how I did my 3 favorites, or like my underdogs to take it or kind of do well in the World Cup. I did Japan, Wales, and Argentina. Because I was looking at Argentina had a tough schedule before going into the World Cup. They played the 4 toughest teams. I think they played Ireland, South Africa, and they got their butts handed to them and they just struggled. Yeah. But I thought it would have been a good warm up for them going to the World Cup, and then they see the pool that they're in. And they're like, we can do this. We can move. We can definitely take what we learned from those 4 games, move forward. And I thought with Wales winning the 6 Nations, I thought there was a huge momentum. I thought there was a huge momentum boost going into this tournament, the World Cup, and just.
But sometimes that's not always a beneficial thing, and with pressure and all that kind of stuff. I mean, but with Argentina, and they've opted for those tough games. Is when they organise the warm ups, it's negotiated between different sides, and they organise it. But I think that those tough games will tell later on in the tournament, because that kind of conditioning means that Argentina should peak a bit later on. And I'm really interested to see Argentina versus England. Argentina, I think, could be the thorn in the English side. I think that because the Argentina pack, front 5, are just super, super dominant. And England, who were they versing last? Tonga. England and Tonga, when they were playing, Tonga were having the better of England around the ruck area, and Tonga didn't exploit that in attack, but Argentina will. And
I think Argentina are one of these teams that they've benefited massively from being put into the Rugby Championship. They used to be the Tri-Nations, because before that, they were kind of these teams that they'd come in, you'd be excited for them, but they never quite delivered. But then since being put into this tournament with New Zealand, South Africa, and Australia, some of the best teams in the world, they've just changed. They've just picked up their game so much. They've got some great players as well. You can't Nicolas Sanchez, I think for me is always one of the consistent players to fly half. He's a brilliant flyer.
And they've got the best shirt in the tournament as well.
Oh, I don't know. I like George's. I like George's little burgundy kit. It was nice.
I like.
Yeah, but you could wear an Argentina out on the lash, can you? Nice pair of jeans, pair of Adidas's.
I liked Scotland's uniforms too. Those were not bad either. I like the navy blue.
Yeah,
they got a bit of tartan, haven't they?
I think they do. Yeah, they got a bit of tartan under the arms, don't they?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
I'm a big fan of Wales as a away kit as well. I like the green.
Ooh, yeah, we're going back to the green, back to classic. Yeah. I've been wanting that to happen for a long time.
All right, so this is going to be my last question for you two. How does rugby move on from the World Cup? What do they need to do for the sport to continue its growth and popularity across the world?
I think a lot of it comes from rugby sevens. I think rugby sevens has had a massive impact on rugby at the moment, especially in the USA and Canada, because I know they have a lot of sevens tournaments out there, and I think it's a good way of getting people into it. It's a very different type, but I think it is just exposing people to it more, showing people that it's not just a sport where batter each other for 80 minutes. It's a sport where, anyone can play it, where there is, technicality to it, and, it is just kind of putting it on that platform and just letting it grow, because last year it grew. 9.6 million people played it last year, wow. Which is, I think it was a 23% growth or something like that. And especially women's rugby, there's more people playing. I think it was out of that 9.6 million, it was 2.7 million were women. And I think it is just putting it on bigger stages, like just putting it in places like Japan. Because I didn't realise until the start of this tournament actually how rugby mad they were out there, you know? So I think it is kind of taking it to these countries that don't necessarily have like a lot of the bulk. Like obviously when you think of Africa, you think of South Africa, but then like they've got teams and they've got Namibia. And I think it is just putting it in places just so more people can play it. It's making it accessible to everyone.
Yeah, and I'd say on sevens as well, it kind of it brings in a crowd that you wouldn't normally expect at rugby union or league, purely because how the day is structured. I mean, you get and how short the games are. I mean, you sometimes you get about 5 to 7 games in one day, and you can have a whole stage of a tournament happen in one day in the summer, and it's a lovely summer's day. And obviously, you know, rugby union's a winter sport, so you know everyone's wrapped up warm and that kind of stuff. But the sevens is in the summer, and everyone seems to enjoy themselves on that kind of day.
I think maybe bringing new tournaments into, because I know there's been a lot of talk with the last couple of years about the Six Nations, about bringing in kind of like having the main Six Nations and having like the teams underneath. So teams like Georgia, I think Romania were mentioned at one point as well, and Belgium.
Yeah.
Having them play to then qualify for the Six Nations and having like the lowest team in the Six Nations down and having that kind of a qualification thing to it. Just because I think if you put teams like, you know, Georgia, Romania, Belgium in a tournament where they're playing against teams like Wales, England, Ireland, then they will step up the game because they're playing against people who play it more often than them. They're playing at people who play at a higher level than them. Yeah. And it will bring a big step up in the game.
I mean, we'll see now with Scotland, but obviously we've got Scotland and Italy. You know, they're in the Six Nations every time. But if, like, you know, we got something in the Six Nations, it's called the wooden spoon. So the team that comes last gets awarded the wooden spoon. I think that a team should be relegated to a lower league, but only if, you know, that lower league is televised and supported also. Because we don't. I mean, it goes on these European matches, and I don't even see them. Don't even hear about them.
Okay, so like with the United States, I just feel like there's like no publicity. Like the World Cup, I mean, no one was talking about it. It's not even really televised. You have to pay to watch it, and I'm just sitting there like
never.
No, I'm just sitting there like, you know, I feel like people, if they got the chance to see it, like they got to see the whole game and not just highlights, I think they would see good quality entertainment in a sport that it's not just it's different. It's much different than football, I think, that people realize. Like the concept is in a way similar, but it's played really differently. Yeah. And that's why I feel like people would see something, the different side of rugby or a different side of a sport.
I think it's a lot more fluid.
Yeah, actually.
I think it's strange that it's not as big in USA, because aren't the USA ranked like 6th or something like that?
They were ranked 13th on the Rugby World Cup, so that's why I was surprised as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is...
Well, it just goes to show that with a bit of support, do you know what I mean? There's no reason they can't be, you know, near that top 5 at all. And I think, you know, we'll see that now, what the work they've put in since the last World Cup. But I can tell you, I was very impressed with the USA's performance in the last World Cup, particularly from players transferred from the NFL over, what they called your linebacks or what have you.
Oh yeah, linebackers.
You know, your wingers and you know, super quick and almost transferred in that catching ability from, you know, high ball kicks and stuff, and that paid off big time.
So I remember this was in sevens, I think. A USA player, I think it was either a USA player or a Canadian player, scored my favourite tries of all time in sevens. It was straight off the kickoff, and it was against Wales as well, funny enough. Straight off the kickoff, over to the wing. He recovered the ball just one-handed from the kickoff.
Yeah. You
know, like you see in the NFL, just took it out the air, no problem. Just took it to the line for the try. I think, you know, there are good players. You know, like you've got this Carl Niles, who is, whenever the sevens come, all they talk about is Carl Niles, because he's got the pace, and I think he does play on the wing for the 15 side as well. And it is giving these players more of a chance to play. I think even if you just bring them over to play club rugby in, whether it's in France where a lot of players from the kind of smaller national sites go, or if it is in like Pro 14 or the Premiership or whatever, I think it is just giving them opportunities to grow and to learn. And then obviously making it more of a big deal in America. I think in America you've got so many sports over there. Because you've got rugby, soccer, NFL, then you've got baseball, basketball. And I feel like it can get lost amongst all those things. I feel like just it doesn't quite have the same level of pride. So I think we have massive pride in rugby, whereas I think in the USA it's a bit more NFL based, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think it's more about because rugby didn't originate from America, so it's like that national pride. Like, the NFL is like our baby in a way because we created it. It was born in America, and it's like rugby. It's like, ooh, I don't know if we want a sport that's not technically ours. I think that's why soccer's not popular either, because it's like everyone else loves it, but we got the NFL. We have our own sports that we love and care for so much.
I watch the NFL. I love the NFL. A big Pittsburgh Steelers fan. But I think it's so weird that like they are kind of similar. There are a lot of I see a lot of players who play for NFL sides, and I think they could so easily fit into a rugby side. Like your running back, a lot of them, you put them in the centre. Some of them are like big guys. I think it was Marshawn Lynch.
Oh yeah, yep.
I used to look at him and I was like, you put him in inside centre and he'd do some damage. So I think there was one time when they brought, because I know the NFL play a game in, I think it's Wembley. Oh no, maybe it's Twickenham. They play in one of the English.
Yes. I can't think of it off the top of my head. Tottenham. I think it's Tottenham.
Oh, was it a White Hart Lane? Is that what it's called?
I can't.
It's one of them. But I remember watching the video. They got some rugby players in. There were some English rugby players in to play rugby with them, and you were seeing them, and they were kicking these balls, they were passing these balls. They were decent at it, So I think it is maybe integrating it into. Cause I don't know what rugby's like in schools over there. I don't know if that's part of the school kind of sports curriculum, but in Wales it is a huge part of like school sports.
Yeah, I mean every school got a rugby team, 100%, and even in primary school, I mean there's different variations of rugby. So obviously it's a full contact sport, but in primary school we'll play tag rugby, which is you'll have like a belt of little tags, and to tackle someone you rip a tag off. So it's that kind of thing. But what I would say is with the popularity and the profile growing in America, I think this new rugby league will have a massive impact on that. Because, obviously in this World Cup now, there's going to be a lot of players signed, I'm guessing, to these new American teams, which will just instantly boost the popularity. And that's where it is the youth that will grow the sport. So what I think what we're saying is that the reason why it's so strong in Wales is because we start them young, and like they do in New Zealand. And I think that's the answer for America, is get the academies, get the scholarships going for rugby, and I think you'll see a dramatic change.
Because I feel like rugby can do so well in America. It's just about trying to get to that next level and kind of break the barrier from being a sport that's not really cared for to being something that people would want to watch. Again, like I think you just said, just putting it out there, allowing the kids to get exposed to it from a young age, I think is what sets it up to go to the next level.
Every Welshman is an expert on rugby, so all America's got to do is just offer the hand and we'll bite it off. I mean, look at all the Welsh coaches in this Rugby World Cup or involved in the coaching. Uruguay, there's a Welshman there. Namibia, Phil Davis. Of course, Russia is half of Wales involved in their setup.
Samoa as well, isn't it? Samoa? No, not Samoa. There's a Welsh.
Probably. Samoa, I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah.
They're everywhere. We like to go every week. Fans are involved in it.
With the God sport. we call it egg chasing over here as well, now and again.
Yeah, I think rugby is starting to definitely see a popularity growth in the United States. And I mean, I played it for the first time last year in high school, and I had a blast playing it. I think it was a cool way to just see myself, or just to expose myself to a new perspective of a contact sport, and just seeing how you can't just pass the ball forward. It's a different way. It's a different skill you have to have in rugby rather than just completely killing someone. You have to have a little bit of finesse as well as.
And I'm sure for the first timer, I mean, it definitely takes a season to get into the rugby laws and how to pass and how to tackle and where to put your head.
Oh yeah. For tackling, I thought I picked it up pretty well because for football, I mean football's much easier to tackle in the sense that before the helmet rules and all that came in, you were able to pretty much tackle however you want. But like when I learned in rugby, like, you know, just go for the waist or go for the legs, I'm like, okay. And I just I focused more on defense because I knew I'd be more of a strength there rather than offense, because passing, it was tough initially. Then I started to get my hang of it a little bit, but I was like, you know what, I'd focus on defense because I feel my strengths align more on the defensive side, especially because a lot of our kids on the team struggled to tackle, because I think just none of them played football. They didn't have the experience of tackling. And I thought my experience in football, playing for multiple years, helped me at least understand, okay, you know, you can't hit them high, so make sure you just go low, always wrap the legs.
Yes. Well, that's it. I mean, rugby being a sport for all shapes and sizes, so I was really short when I was playing rugby, and I was playing against some big boys. I was going for Cardiff trials, my district trials and stuff a few times, and these boys were massive. And I don't know where my puberty levels were at, but I was very short. And these big boys were coming at me, and I was all right as long as I would stay squat, get low, and you'd absolutely smash them. It don't matter how big they are. If you hit them in the right place and drive them back, and it can really lift the team when you see a short ass take on a big guy. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's just that momentum push. It's saying like, okay, we can do this too. It's not just, oh, this guy's just going to drive and truck over everybody. Yeah,
it's all about a low centre of gravity, and like a couple of the Welsh boys a couple of the rugby teams from all over the World Cup do things like judo and jiu-jitsu to help train where to put their feet, how to clear out of the ruck. And we're seeing some wicked, especially from Russia. I mean, you have a look at how Russia clear out rucks. It looks like they do it differently from everyone else. It's because they don't get into position, the Russians. They kind of they clear out the ruck as priority, and whatever position they're in, they'll find a way, and they'll twist and do like a crocodile twist out the ruck, all kinds of things going on. Judo throws is really intense.
Look at that brilliant flanker, didn't he? It was it
the MMA guy.
Yeah, he played a great game in the first game. He's one that broke his nose a couple of weeks before. And he was like, no, I'm gonna cut. I think it was Gadziev.
I think it's Gadziev.
You know, and I think there's teams there's a lot of teams from like France, maybe. So I think it's just things like that. It is. I think the World Cup's a good time for players from all around the world to really get noticed. I think another big thing for the US might be that I read the day that they were looking at potentially putting a bid in for the 2027 World Cup. And
I think if that happens, I think you would definitely see a momentum shift towards rugby for sure.
That'd be huge, because obviously the US, you're a big sport, you love your sports in the US. So I think it's just another chance for another big sport to kind of just make its way over as another sport.
Yeah, I just think seeing I think when you see like the national pride for all those the rugby teams, like for you guys, like for Wales, England, New Zealand, I think the fans would see like, man, these people really care about rugby. Let's go check in and see what's going on with them. And I think it's just that domino effect. It's like, man, this sport's pretty cool.
But that's it. It's the fans that make rugby also, and the rugby fans are the best fans in the world. And we will have a crack and get to know people. And there's no kind of hooliganism. Reef was saying earlier, is a hooligan sport played by gentlemen, and that is absolutely true. After the game, there's good sportsmanship. There's better luck next time. Bit of banter.
I remember this year, and I was out watching a Wales England game, and I was sat next to an Englishman mouthing off top of issue with, And I'm a very passionate Welsh fan. I was getting a bit wound up words to this guy now. And then as soon as the full-time whistle went, we stood up, shook each other's hands, and we were started laughing. And I think it's one of those sports where you just, obviously you've got the one or two, can't let it go. But
and they're mostly overall, English people.
I did it.
They are the exception.
But no, I think it's a brilliant sport. I think it is growing, which is brilliant, because I would gladly watch rugby every day of the year. If there was some sort of rugby to watch 365 days of the year, I would do it.
If I could do a podcast as well, get paid for it, I'd do it.
There's not many things I would wake up at 5 o'clock and rugby any day.
Yeah.
And I say that's the only problem with the World Cup right now. Like the first, some of these games are played at 1:15 in the morning. I'm like, I don't feel like waking up. I don't feel like waking up that early. Yeah. So I'm trying to.
Good, that's why I loved it when it was in England and Wales last year. It was just like, I can go out at 7 o'clock.
Prime time.
I can go out at 7 o'clock.
Have your sausage and mash, cup of tea.
Yeah, I remember when it was in South Africa. I was still in school when the South Africa World Cup was on. I'd be waking up at 6 in the morning to watch a game, and I'd be getting ready for school. I'd just be knackered in school. I'm so tired. I was like, World Cup's on, We got bigger things to worry about in school.
That's what I'm saying. Like the latest game is played at 6:45 in the morning, and that's like I wake up around like 7:38. So I'm catching the back half of the game, and it's like, dang, I want to see the game, especially Australia and Wales. I want to make sure I see that game because I want to make sure I see a good game of rugby before the World Cup's over. If I'm not able to see a good game.
I have a day off that day, so I might find my way to any pub that's open.
I'll see you there, Reese, mate. I'll see you there.
Well, I think
I don't know what time kickoff is for that one, but I think Japan have kind of 8:45. I think they've kind of favoured Wales a bit. Japan, we've got a bit of an affinity, Japan and Wales, with rugby. Obviously we got a dragon on our flag. Daffodils. There's all kind of things. And when Japan went touring back in the 70s, the first place they toured was Wales, and they had a cracking time. But they've given us the best stadium and the best times, so I don't know whether that's...
they had that open training, didn't they? And like 15,000 Japanese turned up.
Yeah.
There's a video of them all singing the national anthem, singing Canon Lan. I thought it was brilliant. It's such a random thing that just this country near the other side of the world look at our little tiny nation. They're great. Let's get behind them. I think just like the amount of Japanese fans are just there at random games just to enjoy. There's that one bloke who I love who just paints the rugby shirt on himself. I think it's
he's brilliant.
It's the craziest thing that he wakes up and just paints a rugby shirt on.
And I tell you what, he does a good job as well. But how does he do the bit at the back? That's my question.
So guys, before we wrap up, you guys can plug in your social medias. You guys are more than welcome to right now.
Yeah, so follow me or check me out. I'm doing Rugby World Cup updates and little videos and that kind of thing. Dom Welsh Actor. So that's me.
Yeah, you can check me out at Reese_Llywelyn. It's a bit tough. It's LLEWELYN. I tweet a lot about rugby. I tweet a lot about wrestling. I love wrestling. And I tweet a lot about random stuff. So my Twitter is something for everyone, I think.
Yeah.
So if you're into rugby, I definitely recommend following these two because, again, that's actually kind of how I got into contact with Dom specifically because I just you followed me on, you followed the podcast on Twitter. I'm like, okay, let's see what this guy's up to. Then you were doing a World Cup preview. I'm like, this guy wants to talk about rugby, and then I comment on your video. Then here we are, a week later.
Exactly. But that's the wonderful thing about the World Cup. It brings people together and from all over the globe. And I've been chatting to Japanese fans, Uruguay fans today. It's been fantastic. And just so I wasn't clear, it's at Dom Welsh Actor.
Shameless.
Yeah, so that's going to conclude the...
You've got to be shameless in this game. Oh. Unfortunately.
All right, so that's going to conclude the 35th episode of Sports Avenue. I've had Dom and Reese to join me on this awesome podcast. Guys, I want to thank you for joining it. It's been a blast talking to you guys about rugby, and I definitely hope to bring you guys back and more fans, players, as we come down this line. So thank you again. I really appreciate it.
No worries at all. It's been a pleasure.
It's been brilliant.
All right, so that concludes the 35th episode of Sports Avenue. Stay tuned on social media. I'll plug that all in below. Follow these guys on Twitter. You can get all good content, rugby, wrestling, random stuff. So, guys, I'll see you next week on the 36th episode of Sports Avenue. Have a great day, everyone, and enjoy your week, and go rugby.